Hi, everyone. We haven't spoken in a little while, and I wanted to cover a few things. I want to talk about Rachel Maddow, Dr. Seuss, and Abraham Lincoln and cancel culture, Joe Manchin, someone who you probably hate, but I want to give you a different perspective, Donald Trump, and why the National Guard did not show up. It's a pretty simple explanation. Texas and what we're going to do about Texas, and HR1, which is potentially really good news. So let's start off with Rachel Maddow. First of all, I have to tell you that I felt so honored to be at Air America Radio. I think it was in 2007 to 2010 was when I was on, and Rachel was on for much of that time. And for much of that time, I hosted a radio show from 8 to 10 every night, and she hosted a radio show from 6 to 8. And when I was in New York, which was fairly often, and that was where the studio was on 19th Avenue, 19th Street, and 6th Avenue, I would be coming into the studio when Rachel would be coming out. And sometimes I'd be in the studio, Air America studio, before she went on. And I have to tell you, I will never get this image out of my head of walking into the studio one time, and she was always very busy. She was always very nice, very cordial, but she was kind of heads down, as you would imagine, totally focused on, creating this unbelievable broadcast. And in fact, she would pretty much script out every single word of a 2-hour broadcast, unlike most radio broadcasters. And one time I remember walking in, and she's literally, here's Rachel Maddow on the floor in the Air America studio with a pen and mapping out on a giant piece of poster paper, mapping out what her 2-hour radio show is going to be. I'd never seen anything quite like that. Super, super smart, super polite, super courteous. And as I have long said, and you guys probably agree with me, if we could just seriously get our Trump-loving friends and even our Republican friends who don't love Trump to watch just a couple weeks of Rachel Maddow, I think that they would love her because she is such a serious, no bullshit, incredible journalist and human being. So I'm so glad that her show, the Rachel Maddow Show, as I posted yesterday, it is the #1 show on cable television. Forget Sean Hannity, forget Tucker Carlson, forget Laura Ingraham, forget Fox, period. It's Rachel Maddow for 2 months in a row. So yay, Rachel. And I think that's a really great sign, okay? Because of Rush Limbaugh back in the late 80s, what happened is he created a whole slew of what were called at the time ditto heads. And they were called ditto heads because they basically would just parrot every single thing that Rush Limbaugh would say. Rush Limbaugh would say it, ditto. Rush Limbaugh would say it, ditto. And that is why we are, to a large extent, in the situation we are, where people have tuned into and accepted and become blind to anything else, an alternate reality that was reinforced and reinforced and reinforced and reinforced. First, they would listen to Rush, and then they would hear it on their local radio stations from their local broadcasters who would be saying exactly the same thing. And truck drivers, you're driving down the road, or anybody who was commuting, you're getting that stuff coming in sideways, going almost directly to your subconscious, because your conscious is focused to a large extent on something else. You don't have the critical prefrontal cortex capacity when you're listening to radio in a passive way all day, every day. So that stuff just seeps in. So thank you, Rachel Maddow, for helping to balance things out.